Let's do it.
Hey guys, welcome in. It is Brad with College SportsCast. We are here to do our weekend wrap-up show for week 23 of season 2.
We executed.
I heard a fan offer free Dippin' Dots if I blew it.
Wanted to have some fun, execute.
I had bombs.
Stay as a team, execute, give 100%.
Dippin' Dots sound good.
All right, guys, welcome back. It is Brad with College SportsCast. I have John Roberts, a.k.a. Drink Local Beham, on Twitter with me. What's up, John?
What's happening?
I don't know, man. It's been a couple of weeks, I think, because I was doing the Kentucky women's game last week on Sunday.
It has.
Yeah, so it's been a couple of weeks since we've been together, and it's now the 23rd week since football season started, and we are the last week of January in college sports. College basketball is really ramping up right now. It won't be but about 3 weeks to college baseball starts as well. John is a big college baseball fan. So we might dive into that just a little bit too today. But we are College SportsCast. Check us out on the Fanboys. You can also check us out on WSBN TV channel 30. And you can also get some really cool gear at homefieldapparel.com. Use our code CSCast to get some vintage premium collegiate gear. We have over 100. They have over 180 teams to choose from. They're dropping new stuff all the time. There was 6 new Kentucky shirts this week that dropped. I noticed, and there was a bunch of other stuff as well that dropped just this week. So they're dropping new stuff all the time. Check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Use our code CSCast for a 15% discount. All right, John. So we usually start out with some news. I mean, this was earlier in the week, but I guess the big news of the week was Jim Harbaugh leaving Michigan and accepting the job with the LA Chargers in the NFL. So that means that 3 of the 4 teams that played in the college football playoff now have new head coaches.
Yes. One of them just moved from one of those teams to another. But yes,
right.
They all have.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yes, 3 of the 4 have new head coaches. The only one that doesn't is who's the one that why am I going blank on Texas? That's right. Sark is still at Texas, so
right. Sark is
that one's still the same. But Michigan, as we were 99% sure that this thing was going to happen. So our shock is more of a matter of when and why is it taking so long and why hasn't this been announced yet? But now it's announced, and then I believe they've already announced their new head coach, right? So they've already said that it was the guy that was
the guy that filled in this year when Harbaugh was suspended a couple of times, Sharon Moore.
That's right. Yeah, Sharon Moore.
He was the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
I believe this year, and filled in when Harbaugh was suspended twice, by the way. So at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, and he filled in at the end of the season. He took over full head coaching duties there in the games, and he beat Ohio State, and he beat Penn State.
Yeah, he was undefeated because obviously
Yeah.
with Michigan going undefeated, he too was undefeated as a head coach this year.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, he took over and beat Penn State and Ohio State in the regular season. That's a pretty big task. He's only 37 years old. Sharon Moore is, so he's a young guy. Relates to the players really well, it seems. The kids really like him. It is a good move for them, I think, because unlike what has happened at places like Arizona and Washington and Alabama, where you have like 25, 30 kids putting their names in the transfer portal, I don't think that'll happen a whole lot with Sharon Moore. He was really, really liked at Michigan by the players, and he was, I think it's going to be well received. I don't think you'll see too many, players entering the transfer portal, because the transfer portal is open for Michigan the day that he left for 30 days.
Right, and this really does also stop kind of the bleeding for the NCAA as far as the transfer portal, because every one of these was for a reaction to the next whatever hiring or whatever. So like when Nick Saban retired, I was 30 days for Alabama. When they hired DeBoer, that was 30 days for Washington. They hired Arizona, that's 30 days for Arizona.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Arizona got one yet? I hadn't checked on that one.
Arizona hired San Jose State's head coach.
So
yeah.
But then we all knew about Michigan was going to happen. We just weren't sure when. And if they weren't hiring Sharon Moore, an assistant coach already on the staff, then you would have had another set of dominoes with that
big round, because if Michigan, I don't know, I had heard that there was a chance that they were going to dip in and take Brian Kelly from LSU. So if that had happened, then you're opening a whole nother big can of worms, because then LSU, and then they're going to fill their spot. And, so this does kind of end the bleeding a little bit.
Right.
At least for now. I mean, you never know what kind of stuff. Like last year in the off season, the summertime, there was a couple of things that popped up and coaches got fired and whatever. But I mean, you never know what'll pop up. But at least for now, I think the bleeding in the transfer portal is about over. Yes, Michigan and Alabama and Washington and all these schools, the portal, the 30 days is not up yet. So it is still technically open. But I think most of the ones that have jumped in, or that were going to jump in, probably already has.
Right. And then the several of them got, re-recruited by the new staff. So they came back out of the portal, or they've gone and they found their landing space. But I believe a lot of these schools that lost players during this round of transfer portal, of course, Alabama took some from Washington. They're going to get some probably from Michigan, kind of fill back up, but they'll get more when they open up after spring ball. There'll be another round.
Yeah, because there's another 15-day window after spring ball.
Right.
It's
so I imagine.
Days. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to get into a big debate over it, but I wish they would shorten these windows even more.
Right.
I don't like it's 30 days when a coaching change, like that's a long time to me. Like 15 days would be plenty.
Right. And yeah, honestly, 15 days would be fine. And something that I'd heard recently, and this is something that I would really like lean into, when Washington got Penix, I don't think he stepped foot on campus.
Yeah,
I think it was a couple of phone calls. I think they sent him some tape, and then
but DeBoer was his OC at Indiana for a year.
Well, yeah.
So he kind of knew him.
He did, but I think that they went ahead and there were some conversations because I think it was between also DeBoer and then the OC that DeBoer had at Washington that they just had a few phone conversations, and then it was like, all right, back, and I think that a lot of that is when you the recruiting process to a high schooler is you do need to go and see the campus, you need to see all that stuff, but when you're recruited and you're a transfer, you're somebody who's already been in college, you've already dealt with all that stuff. The only thing you've got to know is what kind of system are you running? Like, where do I fit in your system?
Yep.
And how does this help me get to the next step? Whatever my future goals are. So if my next level, if I really think that I'm got a shot at the NFL, then how does this help me? And if it does, then we can go there, and I don't need to see campus because it's not about the campus. It's not about campus life. There's nothing about that is really supposed to that I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to look at just football stuff, and it's going to be.
And I agree with that 100%. It's so much easier, I think, for a lot of these kids. Once you transfer out and go to another place, I think it is. I think honestly, it could be 10 days, but 15 is plenty.
Right, and I think that the whole all the people that kind of that jump into this and then say like, I've got to go here and I got to go make a visit there. Those may be the ones with the red flags because they're really just enjoying the recruiting process. They just like being recruited.
Right.
And it's, you don't know what are you going to get out of them. But
yeah, most of these higher profile ones this time, if you noticed, like they put their name in and within 3, 4, 5 days, they were already committed somewhere else.
Right. And they tend to kind of hold on to those, whatever those commitments are.
Most of them. Now, there are some that are not high profile that are shopping themselves, and it takes a long time. So, I mean, there are kids like that as well. So
right.
Yeah.
So
because not every school is calling these kids because there's like 2,000 of them in the portal, and there's a lot of them that don't get the phone calls like that. So
true.
Yeah. All right. So I wanted to bring this up on the show. Kayshon Boutte from LSU.
I keep going.
8,900 bets in like a year. Okay.
Yeah. It's like over 13 months. So yeah.
Yeah. In like a year, 13 months, around that. All right. Including betting on his own team, the LSU Tigers, while playing for the Tigers. He was arrested this week, a couple of days ago. He has been playing with the New England Patriots this past year. But I've got to bring this up. First of all, he did it illegally. Okay. This wasn't legal bets.
Right.
This was illegal bets. And not only is it illegal bets, like betting on your own teams is definitely illegal. What do you make of this? What do you think is going to happen to him?
His football career is over. Let's just go ahead. Yeah. The NFL is going to make an example out of him. He also is not high enough profile to garner any sort of clout to, find a way to come back. He had enough clout to say like he was good at one point in college, and then all of a sudden he kind of went sideways, which was kind of right around when all this stuff was happening. But
yes, ironically, yes,
yeah. So the big stuff, the big deal is this. One is he was betting on college sports or college football. which I think is a no-no. If you are obviously, if you're a part of it, you can't do it. Two, the place in which he was making those bets, he was inside football facilities. Can't do that. I think he was doing it all underage. He was underage. That was one of the deals. Two, it was college football.
Was illegal.
Three, he was doing it on his like he was doing it inside the football athletic facility, which was not great. He did 8,900 bets over, or right around 8,900 bets over a 13-month period. It was about 22, 23 bets per day if you calculate it all out per day. So 1 an hour for 13 months is what he was doing. Yes, he did have several of them in which he had bet on himself. Now, as far as I know, none of the ones where he was betting on himself did he bet against himself. The only ones I've heard is he bet on himself, and those didn't hit. I think it was against the Florida State game, not this past year, but the year before.
Right.
He, I think it was like a certain amount of catches, touchdowns or it was like yards and touchdowns.
There were 17 bets out of the 8,900 that was LSU involved, is what I had heard. I don't know if that's right or not, but
yeah, it doesn't really seem like it was a ton, but yeah. And a few of them were like were part of like 8. I think it was an 8-leg parlay. Was the one with LSU versus FSU, and I think it was like he went over on the 82 yards and over on like
those are player
2 TDs or something like that. Anyway, he had like 1 or 2 catches for like 20-something yards in that game, so he was non-existent in the game, and he had bet that he would. I mean, he bet on himself. He bet to go over all that, and he didn't get it. So.
Kid, I just want to be like, so he just left LSU last year. He's played 1 year in the NFL.
Yeah,
and I mean, hopefully these young guys will see this and pick up, because there's been some betting issues in the NFL and some people that has gotten bans from the NFL.
Like Calvin Ridley, right? He was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a year or 2 suspension for him.
I don't think this kid, 22, 23, 24-year-old kid, whatever he is, young man, I don't think he's ever going to play again. I really don't.
Yeah, that seems like a fair assessment right there. I think the NFL goes all in on him.
I mean, he has some talent. I'm not saying that he's going to be number 1 wide receiver or nothing, but he has some talent to play. He could have continued his career for at least 6-8 years.
Right, he could have. But the worst thing that could have happened on this whole ordeal is the fact that he used the name Keyshawn Boutte 001 or 01, and he also had another one. He had 2 of them. So one was Keyshawn Boutte 01, and the other one was Keyshawn Boutte 7, which is his collegiate number. So right. So he wasn't hiding. But then again, he was doing it in so much in plain sight. It's like no way they'll guess it. It's like having your password.
What took so long? Like, why did it take them 13 months? And what took so long with him doing
I think they were doing a thorough investigation. Once they caught on to that he was doing this, I think they did a thorough investigation. So I think that there was a lot of stuff that was happening, that they were gathering a lot of information just to be 100%. This is him. This is this is coming from his phone or an IP address that is connected to him. Stuff like that. So yeah.
But it just seems like that's an awful long time to spread out. With him doing it basically right out in the open.
But the funny thing too is that he won. Like, he was making money doing this. It wasn't like he was losing money. I mean, he was a degenerate gambler, or I mean, you could say that he had an addiction to gambling, or you could say he was a professional gambler. He was making money.
He was making money.
Yeah. And I mean, like, in all honesty, I think what a professional gambler, what wins, like, 52% of the time, like, they're winning, like, not that much. They're still making money as they do it. But, like, in terms of the amount of bets they place, they don't make a ton of money over, and he was doing something that a lot of professionals, you'd sit there and go, okay, all right. So, but then again, there was some of that stuff was, you could say was insider information because of the fact that he was playing and the stuff that's in there. It's the part that was making everything illegal. So
right. Yeah. You got when you're playing, I mean, you got a little bit of insider information, just a little bit. So
right. Yeah.
Right. So the next thing I wanted to touch on real quick, Thursday night, LSU and South Carolina played in the women's game. I watched it. It was a big deal. You had the defending champs, LSU. South Carolina was undefeated last year when they got knocked off in the Final Four, undefeated this year, the champs from the year before. So, I mean, you got Dawn Staley and Mulkey going against each other here on Thursday night. Did you check it out? I know
the only thing that I saw out of this, there were two things. One, I saw that South Carolina, I believe, won, right?
They did.
And two,
33 minutes in the game.
Yeah. And two, Mulkey was wearing a jacket that had Coca-Cola written on the front. So everybody's going, how much money did Coke pay her to have that jacket on? So
she did.
She got her own NIL deal. So
yeah, she did. I'm assuming that Coca-Cola sponsors LSU, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, look, Coke sponsors just about every school in the SEC that I'm aware of, and because I know that they sponsor both Auburn and Alabama. They got to sponsor Georgia, but I think that they sponsor most of the schools within the SEC. And so, I mean, it makes sense. It was just one of those. It was very. Again, she's done this all the time with what she wears, so it's not. This isn't surprising that she would wear something like this. It was the fact that it was a brand, like a sponsorship deal, as opposed to, this was just outlandish, like,
Well, it had the
feathers
big
and
on the back, and it was opening up a Coke, I think, on the back. And then across here it said Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah.
Sparkly jackets. I mean, she does all that. But the game itself, guys, if you didn't check it out, I've heard two different reports. One report said it was 1.6 million watching it. It was on ESPN. Another report I saw said 2 million. I'm not sure which one's true, which one's not, but it was one of the most watched women's games in a very long time.
Right.
Regular season.
Makes sense.
And you had Angel Reese going, the defending champs, going against this South Carolina team, who is really young. Like, they lost 5 or 6 players last year.
Right.
South Carolina did. And they had a couple of transfers come in, of course. I mean, that's the way the game is now. Cardoza is back, 6'7". I mean, for a woman, she's a monster. I mean,
so how many losses is this for LSU? Because I know that they have multiple losses.
That was their third. That was their third loss.
Because they lost one to Auburn.
Yes.
And they lost to South Carolina, and they lost to
first game of the season to some small school.
Yeah, that's right.
So I can't remember who it was. But they lost the very first game of the season to some small school.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's their third loss on the season. South Carolina has some really good guards that can shoot the ball. They can shoot the lights out. For girls, if you if you like watching ball, I'm serious. This team is really, really good. I have watched them 2 or 3 times now. I'm actually covering Kentucky women's basketball. I've seen them play them. They killed Kentucky, and then I've seen this game. So I've seen them 2 and a half times. I think now they are a juggernaut. I mean, they just now LSU had them on the ropes. Angel Reese fouled out with 4 minutes and 2 seconds to go, up 2 points. And after she fouled out, South Carolina closed the game on an 11-3 run and won 76-70. That's how the game went. They were in the game while Reese was in. She started getting in some foul trouble. They kind of closed the gap. They were up about 6 or 8. And then she got 3, had to come out. She got 4, had to come out. And she kept putting her back in, and they still had a 2-point lead with 4 minutes and 2 seconds. She picked up her 5th. And after she went out, I mean, to be honest with you, Van Lilith hit a 3, and that's it. That's all they had after Angel Reese fouled out.
Yeah.
That's the little guard that transferred from Louisville to LSU this time, by the way. All right, so that is the LSU game that I was going to talk about. So let's get to the scoreboard that we normally do. There is games that was going on today. There are 3 ranked games that are final. UConn demolished Xavier today, 99-56. Ooh. Purdue won at Rutgers, 68-60. And FAU won at home, 66-63 over North Texas. There is a couple of there's a Memphis and UAB plays in about 30 minutes. I know John's probably interested in that game. He is in Birmingham, so yeah, that's why I said he's probably interested in that game.
Yeah, that one, and I believe what's her face that's part of our group too is also interested because she lives in Memphis. So yeah,
Jen Santi, 1980, I think is her Twitter name,
something like that. Yeah,
but it's Jennifer Williams, I think, is her real name. I believe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But yeah, she's part of the DeFan boys, DeFan girls with us, and she lives in Memphis and is a Memphis and FSU fan. That's the 2 teams that she really pulls for. So that was today's games that are final. I want to run through yesterday's games. These are all the ranked teams. I'm not going to go through because college basketball's got too many to go through all of them. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Houston beat Kansas State at home by 22, 74-52. Houston is rebounded nicely off of that one bad week going on the road in the Big 12. Marquette handled Seton Hall pretty good yesterday, 75-57 at home. Iowa State knocked off Kansas yesterday. The second Saturday in a row, Kansas has lost. They lost 79-75. Kansas now has 4 losses. Yeah, they have 4 losses now. Kansas. I'm going to take just a quick minute here to say Kansas has a really, really good starting 5. They get almost nothing else. That entire game yesterday, 3 of their starters played 38 minutes. 1 of them played 35 minutes, and they got 2 points off their bench.
Oh.
They just don't have a bench. I think that is going to hurt them in the tourney. That's my opinion. I've been saying that all year, but
yes, it will.
They just don't have a bench. They have 5 good players, and they're good players, and they're going to keep them in a lot of games, and they're going to win a lot of games with those good players. But occasionally you get wore out on the road. You got to go against, you get fouls, you get foul trouble. I mean, and it hurts you, you know. So North Carolina beat Florida State at home 75-68. Texas Tech won a close game 85-84 at Oklahoma. That was a ranked versus ranked opponent. Texas Tech is 20 and Oklahoma was 11. BYU won a big game at home in Provo 84-72 over Texas. Illinois bounced back number 10 and beat Indiana 70-62 at home. Mississippi State knocked off Auburn yesterday 64-58. That is 2 losses in a row that Auburn has endured now this week.
On the road.
On the road, both of them on the road. Alabama was on the road earlier in the week, and then Mississippi State was on the road yesterday. I don't think that that's going to affect them in the long term or anything. Playing in the SEC, on the road is tough sledding.
Yeah. So in all the statistical categories like the KenPom and the net and everything like that, Auburn really didn't move anywhere after losing those 2 games. I think they were.
Now they'll drop in the polls. They were 8 in the polls. They're after losing 2 games.
Well, I'm pretty certain that they'll drop more than Kansas will drop, and Kansas dropping 2 games, this week, and Auburn dropping 2 games this week. Kansas won't get his hit that bad, even though Auburn's record is the same, where it's I believe they both have 4 losses.
I think they're both 16-4 or something like that.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But Auburn will drop probably.
I'm guessing 12 or 13 is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably in that neighborhood. I was going to probably be more like a 15, but yeah, that works.
I'm going to guess somewhere in the 12-13 neighborhood is where I'm going to guess.
And it just, again, in the net and in the KenPom and all that stuff, I think they stayed, right around a top 10 schedule or ranking or whatever with that, because I think they were up as high as 5 or 6, and now they're like 8 or 9. So,
I mean, I don't think there's no worry. Bruce Pearl's going to have them. I mean, they got good players. Jalen Williams is playing awesome. Holloway. I mean, I don't think there's any worries there. Duke snuck out a win at Cameron Indoor versus Clemson. And I got to stop and talk about this game for just a second. Clemson had this game won, okay? Like, they were literally up 4 points with the ball with about a minute and a half to go. Now, it came down to a couple of calls at the end that a lot of media and Clemson people and even the coach, Clemson coach and stuff was complaining about, okay? But I want to say this. If you don't come down the floor and have 2 stupid turnovers in the last minute of the game, that play doesn't matter at the end.
That's right. Don't put it in the hands of the referee. That's
especially when you're on the road at Cameron Indoor. I mean, you can't, when he drove in and got a little bump, and they're saying, well, they shouldn't have called that. They should have let him play. They're not going to let him play. I mean, come on, guys. That's not going to happen. Yep. What you shouldn't have had happen is 2 unforced terrible passes and turnovers up 4 at Cameron Indoor Stadium.
Right.
You should have been able to close that game out.
That's right.
That hurts Clemson. I mean, that was a game that I think if Clemson wins, they are firmly in right now. but sitting 13-6. And I just don't know if they're, I'm not sure yet. They still got some work to do. They have a good team.
Right.
TCU and Baylor played a 3 overtime game yesterday at Baylor. TCU comes out on top 105-102 in 3 OTs. Utah State beat Boise State at Boise State in an OT. This was an OT game as well, 90-84. Wyoming, who has been playing some really good ball at home. They're only like 11-9 or something, but they play really good at home, and they won in OT over 24th ranked Colorado State, 79-76. Arizona beat Oregon in Eugene, 87-78. Tennessee comes back in the second half, beats Vandy 75-62 at Vandy. Vandy was leading early in the second half in this game, but I got to stop here for a minute, man. Dalton Connect. If you guys are not paying attention to Dalton Connect, this kid can play ball.
Yes.
I mean,
he can. He can do everything too.
Yes, man. And he goes after, like, I love his, like, when he comes down the lane, he's thinking nothing but I'm going to stuff you and this ball in this basket.
That is true.
I'm serious. and I absolutely love that. And everybody knows that I don't like Tennessee, but I really like watching Dalton Connect play. I hate to say that, but this kid, he filled it up again yesterday, had 32 points. He has 5 straight games of 25 or more that's going on. And 3 of those are 32, 37, and 39, I think. 3 of those 5 are in the 30s. So just thought I'd throw that out there. Kentucky survived at Arkansas yesterday evening on the road, 63-57. Dayton, who is 16th in the country, lost at Richmond yesterday, 69-64. That is going to hurt them in the rankings. I had seen them as high as 3 or 4 in some bracketology as far as seedings. I think that's going to hurt them in that. Well, I just lost. I hit my. Okay, and then the last one is Creighton beat DePaul 85-62, and that was a home game for Creighton. And that was the scoreboard for yesterday and today here on Weekend Wrap Up. Now, real quick, new polls won't come out till tomorrow, but I wanted to bring this up. Out of the top 10 teams in the current poll from last week, every single team in the poll in the top 10 has lost at least 2 road games, except North Carolina. North Carolina is the only top 10 road team that has not lost 2. North Carolina is actually 4-0 on the road.
Oh, wow.
They have not lost. They're 4-0 on the road. Everybody else, Purdue, UConn have lost 2. Kentucky is 2-2, I think, on the road. They're in there. Auburn has lost 2 this week on the road.
They lost 3 total on the road because they lost at App State. That was the other one.
Yeah. And there's the one behind them is also 2-3, has 3 losses in the top 10. So every single team has at least 2 road losses that's in the top 10 of
Yes.
college basketball,
Parity.
except North Carolina. North
Right.
Carolina is 4-0. They're the only team. And I just wanted to bring that up real quick.
There you go.
All right, John, we will switch gears and I kind of, well, see,
All right.
I was going to, I didn't put it in there right.
Huh.
I guess it changed it on me.
What happened? What did it do to you?
I put baseball in there and it changed because I'm so used to typing basketball. I think it changed it on me.
Oh.
There we go. So I wanted to kind of, college baseball. The only thing that is kind of crazy to me is there's like 6 or 7 polls that come out. I don't really understand why there's so many darn polls.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know either right now as far as the polls that really get looked at. D1 baseball's got a poll. The college, I believe it's the National College Baseball Writers Association. So that's one. Baseball America is one.
Baseball America, I watch it.
Right. And then I believe also Perfect Game.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the ones that get looked at the most. There are more. There's more than that, but yes, there's a lot of polls. Now, let's go ahead with preseason top 25 polls. I believe out of all the ones that I just named, only 2 of them actually have their preseason polls out right now.
D1 baseball does. I know.
D1 baseball's got one, and Perfect Game's got one out right now, and they've got a lot of similarities, but there are a few differences in those polls. We'll go through some of those right now. D1 baseball has, and do you want me to go from number 1 to 25 or 25 down to 1? How do you want me to go with it?
I know who number 1 is.
All right. Well,
I know who that is. But
all right. Go ahead and give it to me. Who's number 1 in D1 baseball's poll?
D1 baseball poll is Wake Forest.
Yeah, good, because Wake Forest is probably number 1 in almost every poll. But yes, Wake Forest is number 1. Last year they had a 54-12 record. They finished the season at number 3 because they didn't quite make that final championship round, and that was between Florida and LSU. So.
But they made a heck of a run. I was watching last year.
They did, and they would have been the second team since 1999 to ever have, I guess, to be the number 1 overall seed and win it.
And I know they have a pitcher that's coming back that should be lights out. Multiple,
but yes.
Yeah.
So Wake Forest, number 2 is Florida. Florida was the runner-up to LSU last year. So Florida, number 3.
Caglione.
Caglione.
Yeah.
Number 3, Arkansas. Arkansas's got a pitching staff too that is also going to rival Wake Forest in the pitching staff. It's the offense that is kind of up and down between Arkansas. LSU, number 4, last year's champs. They are the number 4 team. TCU is number 5. Vanderbilt 6. Oregon State 7. Texas A&M 8. Number 9 is Tennessee. Number 10 is Clemson. So of the top 10 right there, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC teams. 6.
Yeah.
Huh? Is that what you got? 6 SEC?
Yes.
And then I got two of them that were ACC. And then there's a Big 12 and a Pac-12, So then number 11, East Carolina. 12, Duke. 13, NC State. 14, Virginia. 15, North Carolina. 16, Texas. 17, UC Santa Barbara. 18, Coastal Carolina. 19, Alabama. 20, Iowa. Iowa is one that is not going to get a ton of love because they're not generally have a baseball, I guess, pedigree for that school, the history and just having great baseball teams, but their pitching staff is going to be one of those that's really good. And again, it may be the offense that's the thing that kind of holds them back, but the pitching staff may be one of the best pitching staffs also in the country. At 21, you've got Texas Tech, 22, UCLA, 23, Northeastern. This is coached by Tommy Glavine's brother, by the way. And then 24 is K-State, 25, South Carolina. So that's D1
two
baseball.
More SEC teams from 11 to 25, but there's quite a few, sounds like ACC teams in that mix too.
Yeah, and I mean you got ACC, Big 12, and then some smaller schools as well. So we could jump right over to Perfect Game. This one's going to be similar, but there's going to be some differences, and you'll hear them pretty quickly. Wake Forest still number 1, Arkansas number 2 instead of Florida. LSU is number 3, Florida number 4, TCU 5, Vanderbilt 6. Texas A&M is 7, Texas Longhorns 8, Oregon State 9, Virginia 10. So
Texas being 8-1 and 16 in the other is a pretty big difference,
right? And having 3 schools from Texas in the top 10 right here is something too to also look at. And then again, you go from 11 to 20. We've got Tennessee, Stanford. Number 13 is South Carolina. So 25-1, 13 another.
Yeah, that's 14, a big deal.
14, North Carolina. 15, Auburn. 16, Iowa. 17, East Carolina. 18, UCLA. 19, NC State. 20, K-State. So in this one, Auburn is ranked 15th. The last one, Alabama, is ranked right around that 14-15 mark. Auburn was unranked in the D1. I think they were essentially they were number 27, I think, in D1 baseball poll. I think they were the second highest vote getter that's outside of the top 25. Right. And then when you go back into 21 through 25, you've got Clemson, Oklahoma State, Duke, UC Santa Barbara, and Coastal Carolina. So
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Does Kentucky have any votes in either one of those polls?
Yes. Kentucky is one of the top vote getters in D1. I think they're just outside the top 25. Because they are really they're really high on Kentucky.
I feel like they're really close. Yes. Like he's done a really good job this offseason bringing guys in. And they have a few guys back. I mean, they got Burks back, and they have a few guys back from a team that, made the Super Regional last year, had to go play the number 1 team in the land, in Baton Rouge,
Yep. Well, and here's the deal too, is that Kentucky has a good pitching staff, and they are a team that plays small ball. They don't strike out a whole lot. They walk, they sacrifice, they bunt, they hit the sac fly. They put the ball in play when it needs to be put in play, everything like that. So they do the things that they need to do to win. They're not the sexiest team, is what it is. And they're one of those bring your lunch pail to work, teams, and they're going to
they're not gonna have, the guys that's knocking 30 homers, a season or whatever. They got guys that are in the 5 to 10 range homers, but like you said, they do a heck of a lot of bunting. They do sacrifice flies. They do, anything they can to advance runners and and to accumulate some runs. They're really good at it, and they have good pitching. So
right, and that right there is a recipe to at least make it out to postseason, and you should see what happens, after that. So
I had seen the list of the top 25s. I
right,
just had not seen the ones that didn't make it, like the votes
right.
that didn't make it.
Right. So in D1, I think they actually posted kind of like their top, well, on their website they do. I'm actually looking at NCAA's website, but it's D1's ranking. But anyway, on the website for D1, they actually do post, I think, like the next 5 or 10 teams and kind of show how many votes that they got.
Right.
And Kentucky is one of the top teams outside of the top 25 that they had. So they were.
I really feel like the coach there has got a good chance and a good team to to have a good season. It's always tough in the SEC. It's tough in the SEC when it comes to baseball. I mean, a good season doesn't always mean you're going to make regionals and super regionals and all that in the
right.
SEC.
So a few other ones to look at, and these were top transfer classes. If you want to look at the schools, they're pretty similar to what the rankings are. If you look at what the top transfer classes, so number 1 Wake Forest, 2 LSU, 3 Tennessee, 4 Texas A&M, 5 Florida State. That one's kind of different. 6 Arkansas, 7 Ole Miss, 8 Alabama, 9 Kansas, 10 TCU. So again, you have a lot of schools that were in the top 10 in both of those polls that also have the top 10 transfer rankings. If you get outside of that, you got 11 Florida, 12 NC State, 13 Georgia, 14 Auburn, 15 Coastal Carolina, 16 Oklahoma, 17 Troy, 18 Georgia Tech, 19 Oregon State, and 20 North Carolina. Again, you're having a lot of the same teams that are in the top 25. There are a few of them that are not in the top 25 that are in there. And, when you get outside of this on the 21 through 25, there's still none of those teams. Well, Clemson's the only team that was in the top 25 in either of those other polls. The others were not. And then I have the top 25 freshman class in here. And again, you're going to see a lot of familiar names or a lot of familiar teams in here. Most of them are in the top 25 rankings. They're just not necessarily close to the order as what they were with the preseason rankings of the teams themselves. Right. So Arkansas is up there at number 1, UCLA 2, North Carolina 3, Texas A&M 4, NC State 5, Vanderbilt 6, LSU 7, Oregon State 8, Mississippi State 9, and Florida 10. So again, there's a few of those teams that were in the top 25, and only a couple of those were actually top 10 overall ranked. Your Auburns, Alabamas, Floridas, and all those Tennessees are all in the next rankings. Just to tell you that, or not actually, sorry, Auburn's not in it, but the Alabamas, the Tennessees, and stuff like that. So, in all honesty, you end up hitting a lot of the same schools as that were in the previous rankings that we just had. So,
right.
But those were
baseball starts up right after Valentine's Day, actually, that weekend right after. I think it's like the 15th through the 17th or something like that.
Right. So the 16th, I believe, is that Friday, and that's the day that is the opening day. So 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's the opening weekend in baseball. That's when everything will kick off. Yes, it's early for a lot of the upper northern schools. That's the reason why you don't see a lot of those teams in those top 25 rankings and stuff. You don't see, it's different than football and basketball. You don't see the Ohio States and the Michigans and the because
they play a lot of road games and a lot of tournaments that are down south or out west. And at the beginning of the year. So you'll see a lot of those teams playing down in Jacksonville, Florida, in Texas, or in Southern California. They will all play in these
Vegas.
tournaments. Yep, they'll play a bunch of tournaments that are in the South. They several years ago, about 20 years ago, had push the season back because of the fact that they were doing, because they were having such a thing against it.
One thing that I do want to bring up real quick, and they were in one of the polls. I know the D1 poll. I know they were in, and it may be in both polls. I can't remember, but Oregon State. Oregon State is the team that is losing their conference teams. The Pac-12 is basically folding. They have worked out some deals for football and basketball. But last I had heard, they have not worked out deals yet for the next year, for 2025, for Oregon State. And Oregon State is a pretty known, powerhouse in college baseball.
They are.
And it's just going to be interesting to see what, if anything, they can work out. I mean, I am hearing that they may go completely independent in baseball.
I think they may go independent in baseball.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So, I just wanted to throw that in there. All right, guys, we're going to go and do the good, the bad, and the ugly. You got to go?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do. I got to bug out. Yep.
All right, man.
All right.
We'll catch you later.
Yep.
So to close out the show, I'm going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly for week 23 of college sports. So each week we talk a little bit here about anything that happened in college sports. It could be news, it could be football, it could be basketball, it could be baseball. It could be anything, to be quite honest with you. So, this week, as far as the good in college sports this week, I'm going to give it to Houston. They're playing the Big 12 for the first time in a new conference. The Big 12 is loaded. Like, they may get 10 schools or more in the NCAA tournament. The Big 12. The Big 12 is loaded. What's up, Robert? How do you join? I'll have to talk to you about it. All right. So I think, and Houston comes in the Big 12. They were doing really good. They were undefeated. They go on the road and they lose 2 games on the road. Not this past week, but a couple of weeks ago. And, they rebound this week and win a couple of really good games and beat some good teams. So, and beat them by quite a lot. They won yesterday 74-52. So they seem to have turned the corner and playing some really good ball in the Big 12. Surprisingly, Texas Tech is another team in the Big 12 that I want to give just a little bit of a shout out here on the good. They are leading the Big 12. And I don't think a lot of people even realize that, but they are leading the Big 12 right now. And you got to give them just a little bit of a shout out. The bad, man, there is some bad in college sports all the time. And I know I talked about it already, but I'm going to give the bad here to Clemson, the way they closed out the game against Duke yesterday. And not only the way they closed it out, the complaining and the trying to put it on the refs and talking about that shouldn't have been a foul. And I mean, he drove the lane. He did get bumped. It was a clear bump. There was 0.4 or 0.5 on the clock that they put back on the clock. And people were saying, well, they should just let them play. The coach was even saying they should let them play. And I just want to say this. Like that's not going to happen. That's not reality. What was bad in this game was that you had a 69-65 lead with the ball with about a minute and a half to go in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and you come down the floor and you throw a really bad pass and turn it over. They come down, they score. Then you get a second opportunity to come down with about a minute, 50 seconds on the clock, and you have the ball a second time and come down the floor up 2. And what do? You try to force the ball from the top of the key to the middle of the paint, and they deflect the pass and steal it from you. Bad angle. The pass was a bad angle from the get-go. There's no way that pass should have been thrown in there. And both of those turnovers is what was bad enough to allow you to lose that game. You don't make those 2 turnovers, you win at Duke in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and you are sitting at 14-5 and a really, really good chance of making the NCAA tournament. Last year, I feel like you were left out because you had an ugly, ugly loss at Louisville or versus Louisville. And that's what kept you out. This year, you've got some work to do now. So there you go. And the ugly, man, there are several things. I thought the way Kentucky's been playing has been pretty ugly, but they did come back and play a decent second half yesterday and got the win on the road, so I'm not going to put it on them. You know what I'm going to put this on? I'm going to put this on the Texas Longhorns. And I'm going to put this on the Texas Longhorns because about a week ago, last Saturday now, they were playing a game. And after the game, some of the players, the walkthrough line was doing the horns down stuff to Texas players. The coach had a fit at the press conference talking about how that was poor sportsmanship and blah, blah, blah. And they complain and cry about this all the time. Yesterday, Texas was playing BYU in Provo. When the game started, you know how students like paint letters on their like white shirts, and they paint letters and they line up and they spell out something? Well, they were in Provo playing BYU, and students had painted horns down on their shirts going across, and they were cheering and having fun at the game. And I'll be damned if Texas doesn't ask and make, because there is a Big 12 rule against it, by the way, which is unbelievable that happens. But I'll be damned if Texas doesn't ask and make those students change their shirts in the crowd at Provo because their shirt said horns down. I'm sorry, but that is as soft as Charmin. I'm just so sick and tired. I will be so glad when y'all soft ass comes to the SEC. That's all I'm going to say. Like, it is unbelievable to me that in Texas that y'all could be that damn soft. Like, it's a competitive, it's a competition. I don't understand if you're doing horns up and you're throwing that around. What's the difference in winning a big game and throwing horns up than somebody beating your ass and throwing horns down? What the hell's the difference? Where's the sportsmanship in that? I mean, I don't even, it's unreal to me. Quit crying. Quit being a baby. I mean, you talking about ugly. I think that is ugly as sin to be that sorry and that much of a baby that you can't take just a little bit. This is 2 weeks in a row that you have done something like this, and it is sickening to me. I mean, it's just sickening to me. Grow up. Grow a pair. How about that? Grow a pair. That would be okay with me. Robert, they're officially SEC members July 1st of this year, 2024. This is the last season they will be. They finish up basketball season, and they have one more season in baseball and softball because it's from spring to June, into June. And then they will officially be SEC members. Them and Oklahoma. All right. That's it. That's going to wrap it up for me today. John had to run, so I'm going to wrap it up. Next show will be Tuesday. Hopefully, we will have Jason Harrison with us again and John Hammonds on Tuesday night. We will do the Big Fuss show and talk about some debates and hot topics and some current news and stuff. Maybe hit a few of these things that we just talked about today, but do it in a debate style. So join us on Tuesday night, January 30th, College SportsCast, the Big Fuss show, 8 o'clock Central Time. And we look forward to seeing you then. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good night.